Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to a special episode of Thicc Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaining fetism and everything in their orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're doing things a little bit different. We've got a special guest here. I'm going to introduce him, and then he, in turn, is going to introduce a few other people. Today we've got Dylan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dylan Drobish, also known as Dylan V. Dickerson White. I'm actually the National Director of TransUSA National Pageantry. I also was a former Mr. TransUSA, have a host of titles in the pageantry circuit, but that's not really why I'm here today. I'm here to talk about TransUSA with some people from our team, one of our board members, nv.gay, and our current and first mixed TransUSA, bleu.eclipse.darling. And I'd like everybody to pass that baton, as they say, here today, and start with Envy. Give us a little bit of introduction about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is nv.gay. I wear a lot of hats. As Dylan said, I am the official photographer for the TransUSA pageantry system, as well as a board member for the system. Besides that, I am an author of a book titled The Queer Allies Bible. Yeah, a lot of different things. But I will say one of my favorite things that I've done is actually crowning the first mixed trans USA. So let's pass it on over to Blue.
You're gonna make me cry. Hello, everybody. My name is bleu.eclipse.darling, or if you want to use my government name, it is Damien Serrato. Honestly, still being called the first ever mixed trans USA is the biggest honor I've ever received, and every time someone says my title, I get a little floaty. A little bit about myself is that I am a big nerd. I have a cosplay account if you feel like following, and I'm always a big advocate about the trans Black experience and the trans BIPOC experience, because a lot of us are overlooked, especially within media. So whenever I see someone not understanding why we are held at such a different standard, I make sure to educate them a little bit better. And I'm hoping that in my community, I could start a little sewing class for those who want to learn to make outfits, make costumes, or just make clothes in general, because let's be honest, the fashion industry does not cater to non-binary fashion at all.
We also forgot to mention our fun little nickname for you as the first mixed trans USA, the very first, setting the standard. And because of your name, we have called you the Blueprint, kind of taken off.
Okay. Branding. Hello. First and foremost, we love a catchy name, we love a pun, we love all of this. The motherfucking Blueprint, bitch. That is something. Come on now.
We do what we can.
I want to say thank you to everyone who's going to be joining us today. We have the pleasure of having this episode today in courtesy in conjunction with Podcastathon, which is looking to take opportunities to speak with different charities and organizations all around the world. And we've elected to go with Trans USA because we are living in a time when our trans and non-binary brothers and sisters, NBs, need to be uplifted, platformed, given the space to speak and represent. And that is what we are going to be doing today. So are you all ready to be getting into it?
Heck
Of course.
Fabulous. Okay, well listen, first thing I'm going to ask the obvious questions because we got to do that for the people. Dylan, what is Trans USA?
I love answering this question because there's not just one answer to this, and it's my favorite way to do this. So on the surface, if you go on, look at our website, you'll see that mission statement, right? We're a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, that's about developing trans leaders and role models in the community. We have a lot of programming, most well known of which right now is going to be the national pageant, but we had our gala last year, for example, for fundraising. That's all very surface level, right? The vehicle through which we do this, of course, is that national pageant, which is so much different, right? And it's a platform that we create for folks that really is about empowerment and leadership in their local communities. Everyone partners with a local charity, for example, and are required to do at least one or two events with them throughout the year. There's milestones that people reach along the way to the national competition. And again, that's still not everything that there's to it. It's not just an organization, it's a movement and it's a community. Right now, like you said, we are in a time when we're really only relying on each other as our greatest resources when a lot of things are being taken from us, and giving people an opportunity to convene with one another and unite. All three of our title holders, for example, in Oklahoma, Washington, and Ohio. Very different communities facing a lot of the same things, different skills and different resources that they can use together. And that's really what TransUSA is about bringing those folks together, bringing their organizations together, and showing people what we can do when we're all doing this together. So like I said, it's a movement and it's a community, a nonprofit, and it's all wrapped up in the platform of national pageantry.
I think in today's day, I think a lot of people might look at something like a pageant and they have like a very specific idea of what a pageant is, what it represents, what can therefore come from something like a pageant. And even just in that mission statement, it's so very clear that even at the root of it, there is nothing but diversity, inclusivity, togetherness, all of that, which truly like makes our queer community and our world function like as a living, breathing organism is built in right from the start. And I think that is truly phenomenal. I love it. I love it. What does the actual competition itself entail?
So like I can tell you one of the surface level things, right, that like I did that is involves you sign up, you apply this year. We changed it because of the competitive nature of it and so many people. We had like in the 80s of numbers of applications try to come through this year. But what is really involved is that process, review of that, preparing yourself, that this is going to be that year. You're going to be partnering with a charity. Once you get accepted, you're going to be doing those events throughout the year. You have to do interviews with our national court to kind of make sure that they are really, preparing you for what's to come, the next stage of the interview, and to get to know you. And the next stage, of course, is the national competition. But I think that, again, it makes more sense for me to pass this one off to talk about what's involved for somebody who went through it and from somebody who's seen much more of it. Because I, as a director, am often backstage, somebody who's seen much more of it. So Envy and Blue have a lot to say about what's involved in this from not just the contestant side, but from an administrative and audience and photography side, just everything involved.
Yeah. So the big thing about TransUSA is we're not a beauty pageant and we're not a drag pageant either. You can see those, a lot within, beauty pageants all over the globe, and then, your drag pageants at your gay bars and everything in your cities. That's not us. What we are so focused on is finding, empowering, and uplifting the next trans leaders. That's the big thing. We want to seek out those people who are ready to take that spotlight and ready to uplift the entire community. When we're very passionate about this, about finding these leaders, about finding these people. And it's not just like hey, you've got the title for 1 year and then you're done. It's more like you hold it for the rest of your life. You hold this accomplishment, and you're now uplifted and seen as someone who's truly powerful within our community, and that's what we need right now. We need these leaders. We need these icons, not just to be famous for a video or famous for whatever. It's there. We're showcasing who you are and helping you maximize yourself and uplift this entire community.
Everything that Envy said, especially with my experience. Now, mind you, when the mix category dropped, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm probably not going to do it. Even though so many people messaged me personally and they were like, you need to join. But I was already so low-key traumatized by other drag pageants because they always claim we want you to be yourself. But then when I was myself, they were like, oh, that's too much. You're a little too loud. You're a little too costumey. There's too much here. You stumble over your words. So I wasn't sure, but actually being in this pageant, I have never felt so comfortable to be myself.
And that's the biggest part of it. I think that when you say it's one of those questions where it's a couple words like what's involved, right? But then you've like so much and it's
It
life
involves
changing.
a
I
lot of
think
work.
what are those categories that you had to prepare for, if you don't mind telling?
So the categories entail, of course, interview, formal wear, swimsuit, and state costume. I'm from Ohio. I find my state a little boring, even though there's a lot about this state that's really, really cool, but a lot of it I didn't want to represent. I know, Envy, listen to me. I
Girl,
know.
I live here too. I know. It sucks. I'm sorry.
If you
He's
could
always
see
getting
Yes,
on my
it
case
does.
about, oh, don't talk shit about Ohio all the time. I'm like, I'm sorry, there's not much to like about this state.
I mean,
there's
that's why your state abbreviation is O.
yeah, And it's not even just that. We are such a cryptid little state. We are such a weird little pocket of people. We have so many serial killers. Every astronaut is almost literally from Ohio, which brings me to my state costume. As a child growing up, my favorite fact was the fact that over 25 astronauts are from Ohio. So I'm from a small town and kind of trying to figure out how I can represent Ohio while also being myself and showing who I am. It was very hard because at first I was like, maybe I should just stick to something so basic like a carnation. I didn't want to do that.
You could have been really cheeky and been a traffic cone, and then you could have said, I'm the state flower.
No, there was something really funny I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how to do it. There was the iconic hell is real sign.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to do that while also being construction because there's always construction going on 75.
75, 70, 71.
270,
480, all of them.
all of
This
them.
to this totally like takes you to like the best part of state costume new, and like because people talk about, sorry, might be weird, pageantry, and why you would even do this, why this is important, right? We're trying to select a leader, right? Why is this kind of thing a state costume category? Why are all these little things important? But the idea is, how creative can you get? How do you use the resources you have? What connections in your community do you have to be able to create something like this? And it's all about teaching folks how to, okay, now this is going from that concept, meeting and networking with the folks to make it happen. And it's all of the things and every little category in a pageant, all of this, it does teach you these things. And it's how we kind of figure out that at the end of the day, this person was able to, in each of these different areas, do that same thing. And I will say the same. I almost had a similar idea because I was doing some of my state costume when I ran and in the hotel room. And I said, if it broke, I'd just say, well, just like every other thing constructed in Pennsylvania.
Say you're absolutely correct because it is when you talk about all these different parts of TransUSA that you have to do. I mean, the swimsuit is about confidence. It's about being up there and being able to strut your stuff, no matter what your body looks like, no matter who you are, being able to take your time and walk across that stage and own it. That's a huge thing, and it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking things for all of our contestants to do. And yet each and every one of them would come off the stage with a big smile and they're like, oh my God, that was awesome. And of course, you're formal wear. How can you best display yourself and your creativity in the state costume? And then, of course, Q&A is always how quick can you think on your feet? How well can you answer a question? And so, like all of that married together really helps us find that true person. And of course, there's me in the back just taking pictures, loving every second. The state costume is probably my favorite because it is the best to photograph. Like, yes.
I will say that going into TransUSA, despite all of the struggles that I went through the year, my main goal was to just be myself because I wanted to see if they really were going to put their money where their mouth was and if I could really be myself in a pageant setting. So I was quirky. I did a Prince Peach inspired swimsuit and I was like, all right, here's some personality.
It was so much fun to watch you up there. I have to say, this was one of the first years I got to watch a lot of that final night or most of it, and just seeing the confidence displayed and seeing like what you just talked about swimsuit. And I will echo, as somebody who went through it, and as a trans person, most of us, especially on the non-binary and trans mask side, have never been in a pageant where we've been able to do a swimsuit in a way that's authentic. And it's something that why it's important, like, is absolutely what Envy said. Like, this is about showing not just yourself that confidence, but everyone else what real trans bodies look like, and the confidence is possible. And so, like, I actually wanted to run back to Blue. Like, what did that feel like coming off stage?
After swimsuit, I was nervous because when it comes to swimsuits, what was I most comfortable in when it comes to swimwear? Because whenever I did swimwear, I always wore like a shirt and shorts. So I stepped out of my comfort zone, even though I still had full length. My butt was out, and I'm not used to doing that, for lack of a better word. But I had so much fun showcasing that part of myself, and I felt free and walking through that stage in my little swim suit with my little umbrella being cute. I felt adorable. I felt light as a feather. I felt confidence I haven't felt in a very long time, and I was like all giddy right afterwards. And I know everybody in my group, they were nervous about going on at first, but like afterwards, they were like, I felt sexy. And I was like, good. We all look sexy.
It needs to be a photo we get this year, the photo of the entire group before they go on stage, and a photo of them all after they've all gone off. Like put that picture side by side and see what their faces look like.
Oh, so just more work for me,
We
right?
can
I
make
mean, I got to be in 15,000 places at once, but okay, I'll get that photo too.
well, maybe we will have some wonderful listeners who appreciate our stories and donate us money to get you a support photographer to help out.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, my wife will actually be with me this year. She is very excited to be able to come and check this all out after hearing about it for the last couple of years. But to reiterate what everyone has been kind of saying, the big thing that is important here is that it's not just for established, transgender individuals who have been doing pageants for a while or who have been leaders in their community and have been working with different nonprofits and advocacy groups. No, like we want everyone. We want everyone to come out and participate, no matter, how young or how old you are. If I'm not mistaken, we had someone apply this year who was 63, I think was the oldest we had.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Like we want people to come out and showcase who they are, represent their state, represent their communities, no matter how big or how small you are. Like it, don't be fooled by social media presence and follower numbers and that type of stuff. Don't worry about that stuff at all. What matters is that you come and represent who you are and who you are for this community.
I gotta tell you all,
It's
I got this smile on my face because just between yours three alone, like there's just energy. It's electric. It's giddy. It's wonderful. You
Can
know,
you imagine like, when there's hundreds of people in the same room doing the same thing? And this year it happened, we all got there one day after the election and it was terrifying, thinking about what that was going to be like. But when I saw everybody just able to lean into this kind of thing, and when you ask what does it entail, there is the things you can read online, like we said, the categories and descriptions, but what it entails is so much more. And it's about having that feeling in that room full of people and throughout that entire week of events, the other things we do outside of it, going out in the city we're in, just kind of closing off and tuning into one another before we go back for that fight. That's what it entails, really.
I'd say it was by far the best way to spend the day after the election. Like I couldn't have thought of a better time for it because it truly is a family and a community. And even though I'm not participating like as a contestant, I get to just stand off in the dark taking pictures. Like I still get connected with every single one of these contestants and see all this just true, authentic beauty. And it really was a powerful statement this year that we were not going to let the results of the election get us down. We weren't going to let some orange man in the White House dictate who we're going to be and how we're going to live. Rather, we're going to come out here and be that protest that we are and say, I'm myself, I know who I am, and I'm going to live as I know myself.
all of that, all of that. My gosh. Listen, I digress. Listeners, this is why we wanted to have these types of conversations, right? Because, like, this is why. This is the thing. This is what it's all about, right? So, first call out here right now on the pod. In the show notes, you're going to see some links. You're going to see social medias. You're going to see websites. And there is also going to be a donation link. Motherfuckers, if you got coin, give. Please give. So, listen, let's talk a couple more things about the pads just so we make sure we get it all
Oh
done.
yeah.
Where is it held, and what is grand prize?
Oh, this is a fun one. Well, in the past, we held this competition in Milwaukee because our founder lived in Milwaukee. But this year we're doing something a little different. And I'm pretty excited about it. We are moving our location to Washington, D.C. So we were originally talking about the Kennedy Center, and I was working with my contacts over there. But as many of you may have seen in the news, at least in the US, there's a little takeover of the Kennedy Center, and programming that was put on, by my drag family and people I'm involved with was kind of the center of that, and they kind of pulled everything. So we're kind of in some conversations about major theater, major partnerships with, the mayor's office, DC Arts, Capital Pride, a bunch of other organizations in the area, kind of on that same purpose that we are working with to bring this to our nation's capital, right outside that door for everybody to see, and the people who are making these laws, people who are making these decisions. When we descend on this city in November during Trans Awareness Week, so November 12th through 16th, we'll be here. That's really going to be such a big step forward, a big step up, and it's a platform that I think I want to talk to Blue a little bit about, because it's a little bit bigger than you thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah, I'll be perfectly clear. I didn't think I was gonna win, so I really didn't pay attention to the package. I just wanted to go out there and show who I was and show the world that I'm not afraid of being who I am. So you get an amazing package, you get opportunities such as like performing at Pride in Milwaukee, but we're going to be doing World of Pride in DC. And of course, you get the prize package, which is like the pretty little crown and some money. But the best part of winning personally was the family that I made with all the contestants. Not just the mixed contestants, because, you know, having so many beautiful, different non binary individuals in one room, but also with the other misters and the misses and just bonding over our trans experiences. I am honored to have competed with every single one of them. And now people want to hear my voice because nobody ever wanted to hear me before. Nobody wanted to take me seriously. I was just a non binary person of color. I wasn't a favorite. I wasn't anybody that anybody wanted to look at. But now people want to hear my voice. And the voices that told me as a kid that I was too loud or too obnoxious, those are gone. I'm going to be loud. It's given me this prize to me has given me the confidence to be myself, to be loud, and to be that obnoxious black little kid that everybody told me not to be.
Now everyone is crying.
Prize. That is my prize. Yeah, cool, I got a shiny hat. I'm myself fully, wholeheartedly, and I am never going to stop with that. And this has given me the boost that I've always needed, because now y'all going to be sick of me.
I am speechless just because I'm about to cry myself, just because like I think that you just said that I'm going to need this recording and just use this in everything that we ever put out there ever again.
You will get an entire thing unedited. Don't you worry about that. But that is so gorgeous. I mean, you know, it is so that thing where when you don't do, let's say competition as a broad spectrum, right? You look at that, you're like, well, that ain't for me, or I don't give two hoots about that, and you just sort of wave it off, you go, whatever. It was an honor just to be nominated. You're like, well, yeah, this is what you're supposed to say, right? Like you come up with all this idea in your head about like, well, of course, right? Like that must be what it is and how it goes down. And you know, I'll say we were honored last year in November ourselves with an award, which was wonderful, and similar situation. You know, you're there with people, your compatriots, your peers, and people who see you, and you know, it's an acknowledgement and just like what it does for the soul to be seen, to be recognized, to be a part of all this. It could never be understated. So, baby, you've got us all tearing up over here.
Right? It's the experience itself. And I mean, don't get me wrong. There is an amazing kind of prize package and opportunities, like we said, minimum, even if without sponsorships, $2,000 cash, you know, bonuses, pride appearances, a couple of different events sponsored to fly, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of things, and all the little promo cards and nonprofit resources that come with it. But I think just the opportunities and experiences that you can't put on paper, that you can't, you know, quantify. That's why people really do this, because I think that as somebody who has competed for my entire life, and I know pretty much half of it at this point, Blue as well, when we compete, you invest a lot throughout the year, and it's never the money that people are concerned about, especially with a nonprofit organization. You know, you earn so much more out of it.
And to that point, I was curious to ask, because, you know, obviously we did a little research beforehand. I'd like to inquire about this. Do you provide help or assistance of some kind to contestants?
There's a few things that we do with the registration fee. Like, people wonder where that goes and where the money goes. We always get to ask that question. While we are fundraising for another set of priorities, there's lots of different kind of help that people get. And one of the things that a lot of pageants that I've been involved in, you pretty much pay your registration fee and then you show up, or, you know, you are on your own, or if you're a promoter, let's say, if it's that kind of setup. But with us, we really want to make sure that we can remove some of the stress, at least. So this year we provided a catered brunch for everybody, at the competition. It's at least one meal, at least they don't have to worry about. We provided a whole bag full of snacks and some resources. And this reminds me of Damien's registration notice when the gift from our miss who was stepping down, Anya, that year was in the bag. And what did you say exactly?
Oh, fuck yeah, tahini.
In the middle of a speech during registration.
It got so quiet out of nowhere, and I didn't register that it got quiet. It was literally the size of my pinky, a tiny bottle of tahini. That's my to-go spice. That's my now to-go spice. Like, are you kidding me? That is come in so handy.
It's just reminding me so much. It was so funny. And throughout the year, NV also provides the photos for them, professional photos for folks. There's a lot of things that they get as just being a part of this that really tries to not just, oh, we're going to give you that money, right? This is about making sure you have the tools that we're going to pay for, as a system. We develop some of these packets, right, that are nonprofit strategy resources. We have a lot of things that we can do for people. But we really would like to do, though, and one of those fundraising priorities we'd all talked about is make this even more accessible, right? Because it's something that's not always cheap to compete in a pageant. And there are people that don't have necessarily those resources or a starting point. And one day I really would. I'd like to have the funding to be able to provide free lodging for everyone at the competition. I think that that's something that people who work really hard and raise, let's say, thousands of dollars, for these charities in their local communities, like I think up to 150,000 across the group last year, across the country. People who work that hard should be rewarded, and as somebody who I've been on disability myself, I'm autistic, I have worked my entire life. I don't have in my own bank account funds to be able to do that. But everything we do, we don't take any money ourselves as leaders of an organization. Everything we do goes into folks. So that's why, a big priority is really making sure that once people get to that point at the end, they're not going to stress about something like that, like food, lodging.
And that story about Blue with the little tahini bottle, I'm just like, what was that about? Authenticity, being your authentic self, and just being this person who just shines through. I mean, and baby, this is what we need. This is what our world needs right now. We need people like yourself who just show up and are your authentic self. And I really appreciate what you were saying as well, Envy, about saying that it is really not about the follower count, right? Because we talk about this with our podcast, right? We want to talk to people in our community. And yes, of course, people want to hear from individuals who are of a notoriety and of a well-regardedness, of course. But we need to get some love and some shine to the people who maybe don't have that, people who are still here, who are still very valid, and in fact, because of the fact that they are not getting seen, they probably have something a little bit more worth hearing and listening to. So I think that is just so important. All of this, and again, all of this coming together, right? Like it's almost like when trans non-binary people say that, like, hey, intersectionality and diversity is exactly the thing that gets it going and makes it fabulous. It's almost like there's truth to that. And it's not just all about.
I think that's a real thing.
Yeah, it's almost like there's something to that.
But then what are the mediocre people going to do?
I don't know, work in offices.
Oh no, the mediocre people just copy black people.
Listen, you better talk about it, baby. You better talk about it.
I mean, we're having a real conversation here, right? We can see what's happening.
Yes.
I mean, Blue, let's go there for a minute, because not only are you the first Mixed TransUSA, you are also POC yourself, and you've spoken from your heart about, being this young black person, and it's palpable when you speak, right? Let me put this to you. What do you want this title to do for other trans non-binary people of color like yourself?
I want this title, I hope that seeing me in this light and on this platform, it encourages and enlightens other people of color who are non-binary, who are trans, who are intersex, all of the above, that they could do this too. That they are also beautiful, that they are also valid, because when it comes to people of color, again, I said this during the award ceremony, we are not the standard. Quotations, we are not the standard. Every time there's a piece of media, it's always pointed to white trans individuals. Not anymore. I want other people of color to see that we also deserve a place in the spotlight. We deserve a place on the stage. We deserve the recognition that orange motherfucker does not want us to see. That's what I'm hoping to achieve with this title.
I do want to give some special notes to the fact that, well, first, our entire court was POC. So, but Mr. and Mix were all black, which is awesome. But it's not just, having that bit of diversity. We had diversity within also having our indigenous cultures represented. We had our two-spirit indigenous cultures represented with Tay de Monterey, who truly incredible. And it was so great to be able to see our First Nation indigenous heritage is finally uplifted and brought forward. And because for too long we've kind of pushed them aside, especially with the two-spirit, we've pushed them aside and said, well, no, we need to uplift everyone within this community, not just the cis passing trans people, but the non-binary, the two-spirit, everyone, the intersex. We need to showcase this. And this last year, we did that in such an incredible way, better than ever before. That I feel like we're just going to keep going and going forward, like with so much momentum. So, yeah.
And it's just the things that, Blue and Envy talk about like here, and being able to see it grow and really transform. This is the kind of drive and the things that make the transformation happen. It's a living organization, it's a dynamic organization, and we take the experiences that people have and really the feedback and like, this is how we can do better. This is what people are feeling. And, there's, it's not always easy. Let's go look at that. But it's really just trying to listen, to sit back and think and say, hey, look at what's going on. Look what we've done and what we can do. But I think, I'm getting in my feelings, just still trying not to tear up because you mentioned, the indigenous reputation. And there's a quote that you put on a photo that you took, and it is like it echoes in my brain every time something, when I'm actually in a moment right now, like what would history say about the decision I'm about to make, about the action I'm taking? It's something that even in my mind,
Yes.
I think about. And what is that quote?
Yes, so this was their quote for the Q&A. It was, always remember, we are the new ancestors, so act accordingly. And that's something that's so powerful to remember is that, we look back at our ancestors in the trans community. We uplift Marsha P. Johnson and everything that she did. But we have to realize that we are those new ancestors. In 40 years, people are going to be looking back at us and seeing what did we do? What did we fight for? We are in the fight of our lives right now. And we have that momentum to, win this gender and sexual revolution. And yeah, we have to do it for those who come after us.
It's that reminder, you are not just you here in the present, you are also you in the past, but also the future. You are a part of the unending chain of everything that has come before and everything that will come after. And you get to decide in this very moment the threads that you weave that will shape the opportunities and the future that you see before you. It's palpable. Again, this conversation, it is that reminder of the importance of this, the power of this, and if there is only one thing that could be said about the Orange Man and the attempt at this, it's like, I can see why he might be scared. Because of the power and potency of this. Let us not forget this. This isn't just aimless and happenstance. This is targeted for a reason. The power and potency of the trans non-binary community and all the intersections there within.
You don't try to erase a people unless you're afraid of them, unless you know what they can do. Yeah. And this community can do so much. We are the revolutionaries. We are the leaders of the future.
It's big. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's a heavy conversation, right?
But it's a conversation that needs to be had, god damn it. So we are here to do it. Yes.
Wasn't I just having a mental breakdown with you yesterday about this, James?
One of the main things I try to keep in mind is growing up, we learned this history. Trans people have been integrated in history far longer than they like to admit. We are seeing history repeat itself with the biggest tragedies known. We have the tools and the knowledge to not let that happen.
The Ides of March are approaching, just to put it out there.
The biggest, thing that we like I sometimes get in the muck of it too with the heaviness of it, right? There's that strength that we all talk about and we are in it, but then realize that this is also why we do what we do. And I'm kind of, as somebody who I it's out there. I do work for the federal government of the United States right now, and it is not. I work for NIH, and it is not an easy time. And I get so bogged down in myself, but it has also been given me a little bit of a drive, right? Because what's the biggest tool we have when you can't do anything else? When you have nothing, like you have no more resources, you have no more, here's the cry. The thing that you can do, and the thing that we have, the biggest tool in our arsenal, is that joy that is defiant.
I mean, in moments like this, it makes me think of Alok. And Alok says, that's why I feel an ability to feel pity for people who feel that way. And not, of course, that people should have to navigate and all that emotion. It's all very that. But again, that thing of when people in the binary turn around and say, like, oh, I disagree with it, or I think this for this reason, it's like, nah, baby. You're just jealous that you wish you could be all this. And in fact, you probably know deep down that there is a little bit of this in you.
You wish you could be me.
That's the key.
You wish you could touch all this.
It's the jealousy. It's the envy.
It's all of it. Like, it went around for a bit because Johnny Sibley does that sip and spill, and they talked to Sasha Colby, and of course brought up J.K. Rowling and the whole thing. And it's like, what would you say to J.K. Rowling if you could do right now? And Sasha just looks at the camera and she's like, did your husband leave you for a trans woman? Is that what this is? Is that what this is, baby? And it's just like,
I think some of my favorite parts about this whole thing are really the types of don't come at us because the shade that you're going to get back. We've been working on this and prepared decades. This is our history, right?
Look, I have
So
always told people, I have said, if there is one mistake, I mean, and of course I was just talking about like how I identify, so like my label, but I was like, if there is one thing that you never do in this life, don't you ever piss off a homosexual, because we will come at you. We have been fighting every fucking day since puberty, and we can cut you down. We can make you cry. We can make you run into a corner and question every decision you have ever made in your life. Do you really want to go there with us?
I think it's another thing where it's like a thing where they're talking about going down the street. It's like oh, they faggot, right? And like that's the best you've got. Like I give you all of this material to work with, and that's what you come out. This man disappointing us yet again, right? With the
Oh, I literally, it's like that's the best you could come up with. No wonder you're a disappointment to your dad.
oh,
talk about it.
Like,
I mean, it's the thing you have to, finding that humor in it too, even in the response, is another tool you have, right? Because knowing that this is the best that people can do, something this surface level, it's as much as it hurts, as much as everything on it, it's comical, it's laughable, right? Like,
Now,
it's also like, you really think you can hurt my feelings? I'm my own bully.
there is nothing worse you could say to me that I haven't said to myself 50 million times when I was in high school and
2
walking.
inches from the mirror.
The demons that haunt us at night are, like you got nothing on that. Like,
Yeah, don't think that I'm afraid of you with like whatever machinations you could bring against me. Fear the day that I find the way to let the demons out of my head and let them loose on your little neighborhood.
it's where
Watch
you
it.
just dust off the
my
shoulder.
favorite line from a song: "Don't you ever tame your demons, but always keep them on a leash."
All of that. Now, I did
Let me,
want to ask something that potentially, might go away, and I want to bring this to you all here because you do say on the website, and I know Envy, you would say this as well. TransUSA is not a drag pageant, and that drag performances and performances of that nature are not a requirement, but also that the pageant is, of course, accepting of trans non-binary performers who do drag, of course. And so I'd like to inquire with your, like, how does TransUSA approach that and walk that line to hold space for everybody?
So I think what we do here is that if you bring your drag, it's not necessarily any additional points in the categories. You don't get an additional like, hey, you did so much better because you did this drag performance. No, if you want to come out and showcase your drag a little bit, great, awesome. Have some fun with it. Be yourself. Do that type of stuff. And it's going to be awesome, but you're still going to be judged the same way that every other contestant is. It's about how you hold yourself. It's about how you walk across that stage. It's about how you answer those questions. It's not about, well, can you put on an entertaining show? Like, yeah, we have, you know, between the transitions of different categories, we have drag performers come on and put on some entertaining shows for us, but yeah, it's not about that. It's about showcasing who you are and why you are the best person to represent the trans community.
That's a really interesting question and a line to walk, right? Because you get into the really philosophical side of it, right? Well, what is drag? Drag for one person may not be the same thing for another person, right? And so that's why, and even now, right, we are looking at the fashion industry. In the very beginning of the pageant started, right? They said, oh, well, Mr. Contestants don't wear like rhinestones or anything or overly embellished on your suit. But now that's kind of bled into overall fashion. There's rhinestone suits just off the rack now for men. So this is really kind of like we're understanding of the fact that lines blur, right? Things are different, not just because this is a pageant in the LGBTQ community. It's a pageant in the TQ community. Like this is lots of lines blurring and a lot of things. And like Envy said, like there's things that we do specify with certain things, like in formal wear category, not to do sort of a creative formal wear style, which means like it has maybe a big dragon all over it, and you've got these crazy, concepts with it, but to really look at like a formal type event. And but the thing is, as we go forward, going back to this, there really weren't and aren't any other trans pageants of this type for trans people, right? At least of the last decade or so. This is something very new. Imagine what this is like in the future. And it's becoming more and more that we're about half and half, and it's not all drag performers. Half and half. Imagine as young trans people across the country see this, and they're not into drag. But that balance may shift even more as we realize that this is really for the entire community. Now we have a mixed TransUSA who's there to inspire the entire group of young non-binary folks that this is something they could do, and they don't have to be involved in that drag circuit to do something like this.
I am part of the drag circuit, so it was, as someone who struggles with a little bit of autism, I am on the spectrum. I had to like really deep dive into what is considered too draggy, but what could be a good balance. I'm always going to be thankful for drag for giving me an outlet emotionally, because drag to me is a therapy. I've always made the stage my home. So I had to think about doing my package of being authentically myself, because there's Blue Eclipse and then there's Damien. They are not the same entity, I like to say. Now, Blue as a personality was definitely there because I was a ball of anxiety the entire pageant, but it all really comes down to showcasing who you are as a person. But if you feel most comfortable in drag and that's how you want to showcase you and your gender, that is also okay, because drag at its core in its originality was how Black trans women expressed their gender. It was an empowering thing that they did to feel more feminine, to feel more comfortable in their own skin. But at its core, this is not like we need you to be entertaining the entire time. And I felt comfortable that way. I could still be my quirky little self on stage, but at my core, I'm not doing drag. I'm not trying to capture the audience's entertainment. I'm just walking across the stage and being myself.
And one of the things you hit on too was really interesting, was something that I had to do. I am also autistic, and many of actually our title holders have been. With the attention to detail, I think that really brings it out. But what I had to ask myself when I was approached about the pageant and it not having, a talent category, right? And not being a drag pageant. So I had to do my makeup a little differently. Like at that time, I was just thinking like, well, am I going to be enough? Like, am I going to be as a person enough to do something like this? And like, what about me as a person and not a drag performer is special? Because I think that you hit a lot of it there. Like a lot of us got into drag because we felt like we didn't have a voice somewhere else. We felt like we needed an outlet, or like it gave us confidence. But what if you take that away? Does that confidence go away too? And I found out that it did not.
I think something that's really worth pointing out here is like, neither of you all are presenting in drag at this time, and yet we are receiving nothing but energy and personality and deep conversational interest and all of that wonderful stuff. So pure evidence right there and then that, what can come out from the individual doesn't have to necessarily rely on drag. What a beautiful opportunity, of course, to express and to show a little something, but the opportunity there for all of you all to just be your full authentic selves is just wonderful. And we did want to ask, about, what does it mean, of course, to be the first mix trans USA, and of course being a person of color. And I know we've talked a lot around about this, and it brings to mind actually a bit of a pivot I want to ask. Because we've talked about the joy and the power and all this incredible stuff, but I want to ask, and to put it out to each of you, of course, how are you best looking after yourself and protecting your peace at a time like this?
For me, I'm not a title holder or anything. Like, I'm not a drag performer. I'm just more myself and a personality who I am. And so when you see me on social media, when you meet me in real life, I am who I am. Like, you're gonna just see the real authentic me always. And so for me, really what it comes down to is taking those time minutes for myself, those days for myself. For instance, every Friday night, you'll never see me out. Every Friday night is dedicated to my wife and I getting baked and laying on the couch. That's it. That's all we do. And that is one of our greatest therapies because it gives us a chance to unwind from a busy week, to be together and just relax and not have to worry about everything else going on in the world. I mean, she has a lot in her life, and of course, I have the daily struggles of being a trans person and having to deal with people and everything. And so, getting those moments for myself to just be with the person I truly love, to be chill, to cuddle with my puppies. I mean, that's everything. And so it's really about finding those moments and carving those moments out, because if you wait for life to give you those moments, it's never going to happen. You almost kind of have to say, I'm just going to carve it out. And that's why I said Friday nights, while you might see a lot of queers out, you ain't going to see me.
Well, they stick to it. I've tried to like, hey, you want to call? Nope, not Friday. So we know it is not even
Yes,
for
you have
me.
done that far too often. You message on Friday nights, and I'm like sitting there on my phone. I'm like, baby, I can't even read the text. What does it say? Like,
I don't
no,
remember what day it is half the time. That's the problem. It's not because I'm
do not
inconsiderate. I'm just dumb.
message, do not message, do not call, do not ask me to do anything on a Friday night. If I ask you to come over, it's because I love you and I want you to enjoy the chill with me. That's it.
Whew, man, it's hard trying to make a balance for myself because the year leading up to Trans USA, I did not give myself any room to breathe. I hit the ground running and I did fundraisers for Palestine. I did bake sales for the organization I was working under. I did volunteer work. I worked at an LGBTQ friendly church. I was traveling a lot. I didn't give myself the time I needed to sit and process everything that was going on around me. And before the pageant, I had lost my grandfather. I went to his funeral and then immediately had to get on the road to Trans USA, won the big shiny crown, and I never really gave myself room to grieve all of that. So after my win, I was still doing things, but I was giving myself more time for myself, which is something I've never done before. I was always giving myself and giving my light and my support to other people because I loved the people that were in my life, and I wanted to show them that I loved them by giving them the support. The moment I decided to actually focus on myself, they left me. And that really hurt, especially with everything going on. Mind you, I am very aware of all the legislations, the laws, they don't want me to exist. Taking away stuff to represent for Black History Month, all that. I acknowledge it. I process what's going on and I make a game plan, but I'm giving myself room to plan, to breathe, so I don't burn out. I've actually I finally went fabric shopping, which I haven't done since 2023. I finally went fabric shopping, and the fabric that I got, because, Joann's going out of business, I got fabric that I'm so excited to work on. I'm planning outfits that I want to create. I'm point blank, I'm creating, which is helping me come back to a self I haven't had in a while. I focus on the self-care when I'm feeling bad about myself because, depression is something that I struggle with along with anxiety. I will start up a bubble bath, play some music, light some candles, and no one bother. I don't look at my phone. If I'm not feeling good, I don't look at my phone. I kind of put the world on silent and I focus on myself. I'll curl up on my couch, my cat next to me, and I'll start watching Disney. I'll start watching old movies that I watched as a kid, like Rock-a-Doodle. That's an old classic movie I used to watch as a kid. Watching it now, I just kind of feel nostalgic. It makes me feel young again.
And now I feel old because I think I'm the oldest person in the chat at the moment. And that movie came out when I was, oh God, I was almost a teenager when that came out.
Tim, you're the oldest person in the world. Like, let's not put that.
I know.
Let's not. But to that point,
Um,
what's everyone's go-to comfort movie?
This is funny because it's my favorite movie growing up. And it's, I used to watch this movie every day sometimes because that's how I was. And everything related to the franchise and these whole like scenarios of my own and like fan fiction, right? Ghostbusters, the original. And I would build my little proton pack, like I would play around with that and, arguably why I got so into science because my obsession with Egon Spengler, right? So I was obsessed with Ghostbusters and anything with the cartoon or the movie. That's kind of like the comfort go-to, reminds me of my childhood.
I will say mine, and it's definitely The Princess Bride. I love that movie. I can watch it any day, all day, 15,000 times. I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's hard to pick because there's like 4 movies I would always watch a lot as a kid. One of them was The Dark Crystal, but from the Jim Henson Company. That was one of my absolute favorites. The Last Unicorn.
I feel like nobody else has ever seen that. I bring up this movie all the time, and it's like nobody has ever heard of it. No one's ever seen it. Nobody knows what the hell it's about. And I'm like, no, dude, you don't understand. There's like a harpy bird woman with 3 titties in it. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
I think why that's one of my favorite movies is because there's a quote that she says in that movie that resonates in me all the time. I wish you had left me to the harpy. I wish you had let the Red Bull take me. I can feel this body dying all around me. Because that's what my dysphoria felt like growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't understand why I hated growing up or hearing the weird remarks being like, oh, you're dressing like a boy, or why are you dressed like that? Even though I really didn't have a care for concept of clothing. I understood where she was coming from, and it was heartbreaking. Another favorite movie would probably be Dinotopia. That is a 3-hour-long movie about dinosaurs. I would sit down and watch it. And Dragonheart.
Love it.
Now we just have to have a movie marathon. Like,
Yes.
sit on a Zoom call, just watch movies together. There's a thing that you can do that, right?
Yeah, like a little
Yeah.
watch party. There you go. That'd be fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so fun. Wait, does anybody know about Harry and the Hendersons?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Also a favorite movie.
Mm,
Does anybody know? Like, I think you forget that I think I'm pretty sure I'm older than you.
No, because
Pretty
like every
sure.
time I mention like certain movies, people are like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "You don't know Harry and the Hendersons?"
Okay, every single time I have ever brought up any movie to you, James, what's the first thing? "Oh, I don't know. What is that? Is that a movie about
Yeah.
Americans doing stupid things?
Yeah.
I don't
I mean,
understand what it."
that's a great assumption. Like 75% of the time, you'll probably be right. Like if it's an
Yes.
American movie.
Now, I did want to say real quick, Envy, I love that you brought up The Princess Bride, and I feel like anyone who does not realize this, if you want to do a good Inigo Montoya, you've got to do a really bad Penelope Cruz. Like,
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's true. I never thought about that.
you killed my father, prepare to die. Like, and it'll get you there, right there, every time. Every time.
That's just perfect. Now you've got everyone in the audience being like, I gotta practice this now. I gotta do it.
Like now I gotta try this.
Me
Like,
practicing voices? I've never done this before, Tim. I've never,
No,
I'm,
never.
I've never. Christ, I'm a faggot who does a Jennifer Coolidge. Am I? Shit. Have I ever? Obviously, God. Like, clearly. But
dude,
my
it's not.
But my pizza
You
is
look like the
small.
4th of July.
Oh, it makes me want a hot dog real bad.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. No, absolutely. And of course, my comfort movie is Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch, and I do a Stitch impression that'll knock your socks up, baby.
Okay, we need this now. This is like
We
absolutely a requirement.
Okay. My name is Stitch, and this is my family. I'm not going to do any more lines from the movie because probably copyright or something somewhere will get pinged and I'll be like, Disney's gonna see your ass. What you doing? Talk about all this trans bullshit, Disney voices and things. It's like, well, shit. But Stitch, of
It's so funny. I actually I do Pokemon sounds.
oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. So, with our podcast, we've had the pleasure of having many trans and non binary and gender non conforming guests on the podcast over the years. We see the stats when we look at the podcast stuff. We know that there is firm listenership who loves to tune in and listen to what we've got to say. So, I want to put it out there to y'all. What do you want our listeners to consider when donating to TransUSA?
I'll kick that off. Something that I think I want people to consider. Number one is we do have a pretty specific outline of the priorities we have, really supporting the community directly, grassroots style, right? Because we know that a lot of major organizations, they focus a lot, they pay literally large salaries to leadership. They focus a lot on just keeping themselves, paid right. And then a lot of the smaller organizations that they attempt to partner with, they get left behind. None of our leadership takes any kind of salary in this. And that's a crucial part of this. Everything that we get goes back to what we do for the community, for our representatives. And that's one of the things right now that's going to be critical because all of these things we're seeing in the news right now, you've seen corporate DEI, pulling pulling out of pride. Any of the support we're getting from them as a larger community is going away. So imagine as a niche within, the T often already has been pushed aside when it comes to funding for things or requests for sponsorship, even from some of the ones that would necessarily sponsor a pride. So organizations like ours and other smaller, grassroots organizations that really rely on that individual giving to succeed and thrive. And what we do is meant to support a community that's going to have the hardest fight that many of them have known in their entire lives. And I think that Envy and Blue have like maybe some different perspectives, like different things that people would want to know and why people should support us.
Yeah, I mean, giving your money to this organization isn't like giving money to certain other organizations out there. A lot of the work that we do and the way we use the money that we have is about putting on this pageant and creating a safe environment for our contestants, making sure everyone has the ability to perform at their best, to show up, to be themselves, and to do so in an authentic manner. It's not a lot of the money that you give, it's like Dylan said, it's not going into the pockets of the administrative team. None of us take a paycheck. None of us take any money from this whatsoever. If anything, we actually give way too much money ourselves. I know, speaking from Dylan's fact, he gives way too much of his own money for this. But we use it in a way to help uplift our entire community, to help give back to our entire community and empower trans people all over the globe. It's like we are Trans USA, but we are being seen all over the globe and showcasing what it truly means to be trans. And you can't give enough money to that. And yeah, we're not going out there to fight the legislative battles and going to do lawsuits in court. That's just not what we are. We are about bringing visibility and light to so many marginalized individuals who otherwise are never going to have a light shined on them.
And a lot of the things that we are building towards are using some of these funds to provide leadership training, actual programming for the court. We want to be able to them to go without having to spend their own funds to do that, because especially now with so many trans folks being from marginalized communities, having to fight out of poverty, just because somebody who wants to do the hard work on the ground for the community shouldn't have to, starve or go bankrupt doing it. I think that is something that we are really trying to build towards.
Definitely when it comes if you were to donate, it just gives us more opportunity to offer the representation needed in our community, not just for trans people, but also people of color needing the spotlight more than ever, the indigenous people needing the spotlight, because more often than not, their voices are muted. So definitely a lot of those donations will be going towards giving the safe space to do those things and to give the spotlight to those that deserve it. And also helping the next court have the travels that honestly, that's what builds the family. Giving the next court or the current court the opportunity to travel and build more connections, not with just their contestants, but also with other organizations, so we can bring more people in and create more of a bond. The stronger our bonds, the harder it is for us to be broken.
And I think this is such a wonderful way to wrap up our episode today. So first things first, I just want to say again, referencing here with Podcastathon, this is a special episode as part of this year's Podcastathon. You can visit www.podcastathon.org to discover hundreds of other associations through the voices and talents of other amazing podcasters. But really, I want to bring the focus back to all of you all, because I think this has been a powerful, enlightening, and honestly, as much as there has been some very deep and important and heavy topics, I think there's been some real light and some real fun. And I want to say thank you to each of you for bringing that to us today. So, first things first, where can anyone listening find more information about TransUSA online?
We have our website at www.TransUSA.nationalpageantry.com. Yes, it's very long. We are working on that. We have a TikTok channel, TransUSA Official. We have an Instagram that's also TransUSA Official. We have our Facebook page you can find under TransUSA National Pageantry. We also, on our website, if you are really interested in supporting and donating, the very main front page has a Donate Now button. That's something that people can really easily look into, and our full list of like fundraising priorities, different opportunities to even sponsor or get involved, support specific things. It's all listed there. Our main email too is just admin@TransUSANationalPageantry.com. But it's just really important for me to have been here, and I wanted to thank you again for having us.
Of course. This has honestly been an absolute pleasure. Now, where can our listeners find each of y'all online?
You can find me on Facebook. My name on there is Dylan Joseph or Dylan B. Dickerson White, all tied to the same profile. You can also find me on Instagram at nothisisdylan, or my TikTok, nothisisdylan.
So you can find me all social media platforms, nv.gay, and that's NV as the letters, NV. Or you can check out my website to see more of my work, follow along with my photography, or learn more about my book, The Queer Allies Bible. My website is mxgay.org.
You can find the blueprint on Instagram under bleu.eclipse.darling. There's a period between each word, and you spell blue, B-L-E-U. It's the French spelling because I'm a little extra. You can find me on Facebook and follow me on Facebook under Damien N. Serrato. You'll see one of the amazing photos that Envy took of me, which I've never felt so pretty. Let me just be, they make you feel so pretty, I swear. And if you want to see my more quirky side, you can follow my cosplay accounts that are also under The Artist Is Me for both TikTok and for Instagram.
Fabulous. Oh my goodness, well that's a wrap for now here on this bonus episode for Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, leave us a good review, y'all. Now listen, if you liked this special episode, if you love the podcast, or you just like us in general, share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at ThiccMouse. You can also look us up on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc Radio, or on our website at podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you want to submit a voice note or become a financial supporter of the show, you can find the links in the show notes, and you can always write to us at thethickradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Anchor app podcast produced by Stan and Thicky Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by Stanham.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Body by Cream.